Welcome, everybody. I'm Michael from Boredom Sated.
I'm Boris from Boredom Sated.
And to continue our Ravenloft Demi-Human Vampire series, we've come across what would normally be the most joyful and homely of vampires, races. We're talking about the Halfling, the pipe smokers, the barefoot, furry-feeted, jolly hobbit-esque, very hobbit-esque race. That's what?
Yeah,
You have,
who if you read any of the Lord of the Ring books, who prefer to stay at home and think adventuring is for the foolish.
yes, yes. Which will come and bite this particular vampire in the buttocks. We'll explain later. So,
Yes.
what happens when you completely switch that around? Where, as Ravenloft does, it completely perverts, not really perverts, but corrupts that good-hearted nature, and turns it into a vampire. Well, you get the Halfling Vampire. A deceptively deadly combatant and a very, very interesting monster, to say the least.
And it's great to play with your kids too.
So, let's go with some capabilities of this fiendish little undead. It has an aura of fatigue. Basically, anything within 60 feet that's living has to make a will save, or suddenly becomes fatigued. If they were fatigued, they become exhausted. This can really hamper a party, movement-wise, and just moving around and doing things. It just gives you penalties that you just don't want to deal with. But,
And and
yeah.
it's great because your kids always are in bed sleeping.
You need to switch that. So, you need to switch the tracks in that particular line somehow. Now, one of the interesting things about it is they have a ability, something called pad foot, which basically means they are always whenever they walk silently, so they can sneak up on party members whenever they need to, or people whomever they want. This also means they can move about in a crowd and not be noticed. Not that you'd ever want to notice this damn thing.
Yep.
So,
Now, their ability for Children of the Night, they summon the most vicious creatures known to man.
yeah.
Cats.
Well, yeah,
Cats.
cats, yeah, and dogs as well. But yeah, cats.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Well, yeah, a swarm of cats. They actually say swarm of cats. Can be deadly to a party, because once they pee on you, well, you never get that smell out. That smells terrible.
Look, if I was the GM and the halfling vampire summoned a pack of dogs, I would just because of the halfling, I would have 4d6 chihuahuas show up.
Oh, jeez. Do what? You have to make a saving throw or not be able to attack them because they're so cute.
Exactly.
Oh dear. All right. The mist form, which is interesting, is actually in the form of tobacco smoke, aromatic tobacco smoke, which sort of fits considering they like halfling weed and such. And they shapeshift into the most unassuming of forms: dogs, riding dogs, owls, and boar. The boar I don't understand because boar is actually a vicious creature, but yeah. But the other ones I can understand: dogs, owls. I guess that's cute.
Well, they couldn't make it all cutesy.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
had to add the boar.
Yeah. Now, this is something that separates them from all the other vampires. Not necessarily in the fact that they can drain, but their vitality drain is something different from the others. Most of them target a particular single attribute. These guys target two attributes at the same time. Their vitality drain, which basically means every time they hit you, you're going to lose 1d4 strength and 1d4 dex. That's just any type of character, really. That's absolutely devastating. If you're not a martial character, you probably didn't put much into strength and very little into dexterity. And if you are a martial character, 1 or 2 hits and you'll be a jabroni. A jabroni. I can losing like two strength and 2 dexterity per hit is just like ridiculous. So let's go with weaknesses. how do we repel these pint-sized Nosferatu?
Right. Well, as in the traditional way, something they loved in life repels them in death. So, smell of tobacco smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Never done tobacco. Bite some in the
yes,
ass.
yeah, yeah. Um, they recoil from strong presenting of holy symbol, which every single vampire does. A
Yeah.
halfling vampire is unable to enter any room with a fire burning in its hearth, and it cannot cross through any window or doorway with an upright horseshoe nailed above it. So, pretty much, it's not that hard to make sure they never enter your house.
Now here's something about that. How? What if the halfling has a hammer and he just bashes he suspects that he can't get in there. There's no heat in the room. This is like there has to be a way through this. I must be held up by a horseshoe. That's the only thing I can possibly be. Wait, he comes and he smashes the top of the door and smashes
Yeah.
through or something.
Look, it's the same way that we figured out how gnome vampires walk in. They travel in pairs. One knocks, then the other one knocks. So yes, I mean technically you get a smart vampire, he'll figure out a way to break in, but
And
it's
one of the interesting quirks of this vampire and is the fact that they can't travel.
travel.
Yeah, they can't travel. You take this one because I'm still as soon as I read this I'm still scratching my head over this one.
So the rule says that they cannot rest. So in other words, if they are beyond 1 mile from their original burial site, they cannot rest. I mean, they can travel away, but they always have to come back to within a mile so they can sleep. Otherwise, they die because it's not a restful area for them to sleep. So pretty much, if you have a halfling vampire problem, the solution is we're moving.
I guess that's one of the most particular and weird weaknesses of anything I've ever heard of. It's completely, totally territorial, literally, because it can't rest beyond that point.
Right.
Oh wait, hold on. It says that it can never rest more than 1 mile.
Right.
Okay, so it just doesn't have. It just has to. It just has to get within that 1 mile radius. It's not so bad. They can travel like say 10 miles to feed, and then have to come
Right.
back within that 1 mile. Okay,
Right,
okay.
but
Super bad, but
there's
still a
yeah,
limit.
there's a slight problem.
Yeah.
They can only travel half the night because the other half time they have to travel back. Otherwise, light
But they
comes
can
out.
they can, they
and
can
they're dead.
shapeshift into mist or owl and make it a little bit.
Ow. Yeah. But I
Hey,
mean, it's still a radius that
yeah, I
they're
know. They
limited.
are still very much limited in their travels.
Right.
Now, how do we slay this mofo? Now, like other vampires, they're vulnerable to sunlight and running water. And like I believe the halfling, not the halfling, sorry, like the gnome, they get burnt by um, rain. Rain turns to
Right.
acid. But they have
So,
other
but
interesting.
unlike gnomes,
Yeah,
it depends on how much rain is falling, on how much
yes,
damage they take. So a little light rain is only a D6. A
yeah,
heavy rain is a D8. A
yeah,
torrential hurricane downpour is a D10.
yeah, yeah. So it does. They have time, or they can just carry an umbrella. I mean, yeah. It burns like acid. That means it doesn't. It actually have to hit the. They can mitigate it, I
Right.
guess. I have a +5 umbrella protection.
Right.
Uh, but how do we kill this beyond, other than sunlight or dunking them in water?
Well,
Like
not
that
water,
one.
rainwater,
No, it also can be dunked in running water. It says half.
running water.
Yeah,
Right. Running
but
water.
again, that's the most difficult things because the players have to grapple the damn thing while it's touching you continuously, draining you of strength and dexterity. Very soon, and you have to do it for 3 rounds. Basically, all these guys are 3 rounds and out, and they're generally going to be stronger than you. You know, and this one's like a
Right.
rogue. It's literally a rogue. It's a master of hiding, bluffing, moving silently, now less off.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Now, so to stake it,
Yes.
you have to have the stake uh, be uh, uh, be burning. The tip of it has to still be burning. So I can see you putting the stake tip into the flames. It's burning. You're running at the vampire, and it goes. Phew.
You know what?
And now you have to run back to the fire to light it
You know,
again to chase that man.
you ever heard? You ever see a burning a piece of wood? It's not the tip. If it's burning, that means it's turning into basically charcoal. Charcoal is not
Right.
exactly the most point retenting. It crumbles. It crumbles. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to, or the guy can just simply, I don't know, wear a chest plate on. just for his fight. It's like, what do you
But so that's one difficulty.
yeah.
But and the sure way to destroy a halfling vampire after you stake it with this flaming tip thing that's going to be very difficult is to sever his hands and feet and cast them into a hearth fire.
Yeah.
If the flames are maintained for 3 hours, the vampire dissolves into smoke and is destroyed.
Okay, that's not so bad, except it's very, very specific. And I'm like,
Yes.
wait, again, you wouldn't think about this. I mean, you might probably, most likely, if you're staking a vampire, you probably would have cut its head off and that's it, and say, all right, call it a day, bury it. And,
So for all of these, every time we discuss for all of the demi-humans on the ways to kill them, I
yes.
get a bad flashback to Captain Kronos, Vampire Slayer, where they have the vampire bound their best friend who got turned into a vampire. They bound him. They're in a
Yeah.
barn, and
And
they're
they're trying to
trying
figure out how to
all
kill
of these ways to kill him. And it's just horrible, horrible things that they do to this, who's their friend, who's asking to be killed because he does not want to be a vampire. But
I remember that. And they don't know how to do it, so they're just trying everything, stabbing him,
they're trying everything,
hanging him
you know.
up. Yeah, I remember that. That's I guess that's one of the most. That's one of the things that you don't really see that in vampire movies. They like everyone always assumes, oh, we know how to kill him. It's like, how do you know how to kill him? It's like, what if in the early days before they knew how to, before Bram Stoker said about the stakes and everything, what did they know in the old days? They just try. Oh, well, let's try
No,
this.
but Captain Kronos was following that idea that there's different types of vampire, and this was a vampire that drained your beauty.
Yes.
So it wasn't slain in the traditional way of the bloodsuckers. So you had to sit there and figure it out. It was just this horrible, horrible scene.
Now I gotta go back and find that. Well, there technically was two types of vampires in that one. There was the guy there was a woman who had like she wasn't a fighter, but she was she had the typical charming gaze of the vampire.
Right.
Then there was her I guess the husband or something like that who was the fighter, who was the guy who dueled
swordsman, the renowned swordsman.
Yeah,
that somehow Captain Kronos could defeat. But I won't go into that.
So that is the Halfling Vampire, corrupted parody of what it was in life, much like what Ravenloft always does, with the cute, the cuddly, and the innocent. They define it. It's wonderful.
Yes.
But anyway, the vampires.
So next month, we're the new Ravenloft book for 5e is going to come out. We'll review the book for you guys. Definitely, we'll see how the vampires, if they're going to have demi-human vampires, how they compare to this. Which I have to say, all of these things make it phenomenally entertaining.
It's one of those things where you have, unlike most, like I've said before in a previous video, you have to do the research. I'm not just talking rolling the dice and saying the lore. It's like, well, how do we kill this thing? Most vampires you just stake it and cut their heads off and it's done. No, it's got to be something. You try it and it works. It seems to work, sort of. And you're like, Barry's like, we're done. And the thing keeps coming at, and somehow you're not allowed to leave the realm, or you're just still in the realm.
Yep.
little while longer and think I'm back.
Because you haven't killed the vampire. Yes. So you have the Captain Kronos scene.
That's when that if you wanna really emulate that scene, you have the vampire turn a friendly NPC into a vampire, but the NPC isn't evil yet. So it's, please kill me. It's like, well, I have to figure it out. Let's cut off your hand.
Oh man.
That's gonna be rough.
So yep. So yeah, so that's the Halfling Vampire. Please subscribe. We really appreciate it when you guys subscribe, like, dislike, comment, hit the little notification button so you can see other videos about cute, cuddly things that are turned vile and evil. And I am Boris from Boredom Sated.
I am Michael from Boredom Sated, and we will see you next time.